like, bye, Libby, take care of yourself.
Run out, just as equally as enthusiastic as I entered.
He's just like, that girl, she'll be the death of everybody. She's far too kind. You dash out and you bolt through the castle and you just head straight for the gate. And at the gate, there are Tom, Dick, and Harry are the guards.
Oh, the guards.
Your steps charging towards them. It's Tom, Dick, and Harry, and they're like, "Oi, Libby, how's it going? You're in a bit of a rush."
Yes. I'm off to meet Father before he comes home.
And Dick's like, "Oh, have you not got any time to talk to us, fellas?"
I've got one better actually, Tom. I have that poem that you wanted.
And Harry, at this point, sort of perks up and looks over. And he's like, "Really? You'll give us a poem?"
Yep. I'll give it.
And they all kind of like look at you, slightly like, slightly glisteny, like, oh, like, like we all kind of like you far too much, even though like one of them's like Dick's married, but
How old are Tom, Dick, and Harry? Sort of 20s.
Tom is 20. Dick is 25. Harry is 22.
Okay.
But Dick's married.
Dick is married. Okay.
But Tom and Harry are not.
Okay. Now I didn't write it down because I only made it up today when I was in the kitchen. But I think I can remember all of it. Now let's see. You wanted a poem to help you try and win favour with a lady, or win favour with Joanna.
Who's that you're saying that to?
To Tom.
Okay.
So this should help you win favour with Joanna. Okay, so he fancies Joanna.
Well, come on, spit it out, would you, girl? I really need to do it. And he's like,
okay.
Oh, Libby, help us out.
Okay, here it is. Long ago, when the world was dark and all was gone astray, there was once a lady named Joanna, whose hair was shining like hay. She saw me and I saw her, and her eyes did turn sparkly white. And because now my heart it thumps when I see her all through the night. Come on, natural 20. A 5.
What's your charisma?
Charisma 7.
I don't know. Okay, he's like, well, that's pretty good, Libby, but I'm not sure it'll work on Joanne. She's a bit more, like flowery than that. She likes poems about flowers, I think. I'm not sure, Libby. I'm not sure. I'll give it a go, and I'll see what happens.
Well, no. You see,
Harry's like, I thought that was lovely. I don't know what you mean, Tom.
Alright, okay, so
Harry's like a bit docile. He's like the guard that sits there all day. He somehow manages to never stand up. He never really gets caught out sitting down. He stand up for just long enough for and then he sat back down again.
Okay. Well, I say, well, thank you very much, Harry. That's quite. But I think if you're not happy, Tom, I would like to come back tomorrow and have a better poem for you. And this time, I'll write it down. But you'll obviously have to get Dick here to read it to you.
Dick's like, I might just have to steal that from my wife if you're not going to use it to woo Joanna. Because I'm sure Harriet would love that.
Yeah.
And then he sort of gives Libby a bit of a wink and a nod. He's like, love, if I was 10 years or 5 years younger and not taken by my lovely wife, he sort of looks slightly exasperated at the mention of his lovely wife. And he's like, I'd be after you like a shot, and gives you a sort of wink and a smile.
I I go, oh, that's very nice. Thanks, Dick. Bye, Tom. Bye, Harry. Bye, Dick. And then I just run off.
Okay, yeah. And they open the small door, and as you sort of look at them expectantly, and you just bolt through, not giving them a second heed. You hear her like, "Bye, Libby. Come back any time." After you, sort of in unison. You bolt down the hill, and there's a mound, there's a steep hill, and then there's another gate. But this gate at the moment is unguarded and left wide open. It's only the actual main gate. It's a gate which is normally only shut if the castle was, for instance, under siege, or if you were having a fete in the main village and you wanted to prevent people from going up to the main fortress. But at the moment there's no sort of foreign people, there's no people from outside of the village community in the village. Well, no, not that you're aware of. Where are you headed?
Those... So it's Libby, so those riders. That's what Libby is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll go with that, I don't mind.
Listen and ride.
Yeah, because she's been taught by her father.
So I've dropped all of them.
Because as the daughter of a martial sword, she's been taught some stuff, and like he's always treated her very much as equal of anybody.
Okay.
So he's tried to teach her as much sense as he would teach anybody to have sense, and he's also taught her like swordplay from a young age, because because the mother's never been around, she's always sort of idolised him and therefore tried to imitate him, and he was like, well, if you're going to play sticks like that, you just as well learn how to do it properly.
Okay.
So he has taught her some swordplay and taught her how to shoot a crossbow.
I think Libby is also the type of person who likes to know everything about everything.
Okay.
She's very interested in learning about everything. You know, she just wants to learn stuff. So when she's presented with learning swordplay, she's like, yeah, she attacks that equally as enthusiastically as she learns how to cook, as she learns how to sew, as she learns how to sing, as she learns how to run and ride. She just approaches anything with that same eagerness and enthusiasm, I think. Yeah.
And you dash down through the village, sort of like waving, "Hi, Mr. Ballycore."
You're having to come up with all the names today.
It's all good. He's just one of the sort of general villagers, works in the castle.
It's like a general worker.
Yeah. And you wave at him, and he sort of looks at you like he might be doing something wrong as he's beelining towards the pub in the middle of the village.
What, like a mason or something, or carpenter, or what sort of work does he do?
He
Carpentry,
is
masonry, builder,
Well, first thing he says, carpenter. He's carpenter.
Carpenter, okay.
Ballycore the carpenter. And he's he's the carpenter, he's not the head carpenter, but he's sort of one of the guys that does a lot of like mundane work in terms of joinery, building bits of furniture. There's not been a lot of buildings put up recently, but any kind of time there's a building being put up, he's certainly involved in the process. There is a master carpenter, which is Master Cavendish.
Cavendish!
And he's a little bit like, I have a special name, I'm really great. But he's the master carpenter. And you know that if you told Master Cavendish that the Ballycore was off down the pub straight away as soon as he possibly could be, he would not be impressed. And are you heading home, yeah?
Yes.
Because it's getting dark now. The point where your shift finishes is like about 6 o'clock in the evening. Having been there for like a good sort of 6 hours probably between the three of you, rotating, just doing the turning of the spit, rotating, turning the spit, rotating, turning the spit. Because it's a whole pig. It takes a long time to cook, and it's not a big fire. It's like a nice, slow, even roast, succulent piggy. And you head back to your house. And you as you're heading towards it, you sort of take a glance at the wood stockpile, which is one end of your house is got like, if your house is a rectangle, something like this, with a door in the middle at the front, but there's sort of like a lean-to here at the end of the house, which you can get at from like this angle. So the house straight ahead of you, if the door is in front of you, to the right and around the side, there is a sort of a lean-to, and there's a wood stockpile there. And you're getting a bit worried about this, because although everybody sort of pulls together and does stuff, your wood stockpile is very low, because just your father hasn't had much time to be able to sort these things out lately, and he seems to have been spending more and more time buried in paperwork in the castle, and less time training people or doing the things that you associate with him when he's sort of on form and being himself and really having a good time of it. Inside, or from the outside, the sort of the paintwork is, the building is daub and wattled, so it's like there's wooden vertical struts, and they are like a dark mahogany colour. And then the sort of tradition of this area is to paint the sort of the panels in between red colour. But on yours, the sort of plaster work of the daub is sort of a bit cracked, and the red paint is a bit faded, almost like the colour of your t-shirt, red, actually.
Okay.
Where it's sort of like that red's a bit cracked and faded now, and it hasn't had work. And the door, which used to be, as you remember when you were a child, always used to be gleaming and was sort of immaculately polished, it's now faded and worn, and the hinge is ever so slightly sort of squeaky and rickety. Inside, there's sort of two rooms basically. One room is sort of like a mini stable, like everybody keeps like a cow, a sheep, a goat and a pig kind of in their abode with them, and kind of people will share their animals for like studding purposes and what have you. So everybody maintains like a couple of animals, and they keep them inside with them because it helps to keep the place warm. It makes it a bit smelly, but it's the most convenient way for you guys to keep it. So some people also act as the shepherds and herders, and they'll actually take everybody else's, so they'll come round in the morning and gather up the cows and everything and take them out to the pastures and then bring them back in. And so you'll very much work closely with animals rather than, and it's also, everything's shared. Nothing is, it's all very communal, and it's sort of how it has to be, because you all need your own living, you all need your own, but on the same note, you have to help each other out in order to facilitate the running of the castle.
Okay,
Then inside, in this sort of the living area as such, and sort of the barn area is about as big as the living area, so it's sort of two roughly sort of similar sized areas. And the living area's got an area which is just partitioned off with a curtain, which has got like a bed in it, which is for Libby, and then there's another bed in the main area, and there's a rocking chair, a small square table in front of a hearth. So there's a chimney which is actually next to the door pretty much, and there's a hearth which is sort of fireplace / cooking place. There's a sort of a small thing next to the hearth, a table in front of the hearth, a rocking chair off to one side, a partitioned off corner which has got like a crib in it. There's also a bed in the other corner, which is like a man's sort of a...
Which is father's, but
which is father's, but he normally just crashes out in a rocking chair, and there's a couple of stools around the little table. Next to the hearth, there's sort of a stone work surface with a couple of sort of shelves underneath and sort of herbs and things hanging above it. So it's a very small, very simple place.
Okay.
And it has a thatched roof. You dash in through the door, sort of slam the door open, you look around for father, and there's nowhere to be seen.
He's not there, okay. Father? Father?
No response.
No answer.
You hear an oink, and like, so you know that the herds people have come back this day and returned the livestock to their...
I think I will go to the hearth. Light a fire and begin to make a meal, a nice warm meal for when father returns, for whatever we have in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Kitchen. So yeah, how much firewood is there actually? How much is there enough to
There
make
was that,
firewood
yeah.
right now?
When you were looking at the log pile, you were just thinking in terms of like this needs to last us the winter, and there's really not.
Oh right, okay, but there's enough for tonight.
Yeah, there's
all
enough
right.
for probably several weeks, but you need like
But we
2
need
or
more.
3
This
months.
is something I've noticed. Okay. Well, I'll gather some firewood, take it to the hearth, make some fire, get a nice big pot, and start chopping some vegetables, sticking them in the pot.
You mean in stock as such? You
in
have
stock. What
you
I-
have like some basic vegetables, you know, like turnips and carrots and potatoes, and you have some meat, some sheep, mutton. That's the word.
Mutton. Okay.
Sheep. So you can make a decent,
Like a nice mutton stew. For
yeah.
when Dad comes in. Okay.
And you're in the midst of making this, and you hear a on the door.
A knock at the door. Oh. I drop what I'm doing and I go to the door and I open it a crack.
You see. Make a perception check.
Too many sheets of paper. Where are my statistics? There we are. Too many bits of paper. That's notes. That's
Non-relevant.
not relevant. That's so. Got too many
Organisational
notes.
skills, kills,
Too
more
many
devils than
notes.
bullets, or so they
Too
say.
many notes.
We
Alright,
ain't killing
so
no devils today.
perception no, that's
Wisdom.
the wrong one. Where is
Yeah, that's Reg. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, I know. What
You're hiding. I'm hiding. That's a dead man. That's a dead
That's
man
it.
walking.
You are dead, man. Alright. Can't believe Reg is dead, man.
Reg's dead.
Pretty
Reg's
harsh
dead.
death.
Dragged
So
under.
wisdom, I rolled a 16 plus 2, 18.
Okay, the
Perception.
first thing you see is just a big caped figure. They're about probably a good head taller than Libby. Very, very skinny, very emaciated. In terms of frame, like you can't tell much more. But the cloak is a faded green-brown colour, and the hood is pulled far over their face, and you notice that the skin is a kind of golden yellowy colour, and that the eyes are sort of black recesses.
Do I recognise this person?
No,
No,
not at all.
not at all.
And in gasp breaths, it's like, "You must stop me from leaving this place." What do you do?
Oh, God, can I help you, sir?
And he's like, "Find me in the forest." And just sort of the cloak slumps to the ground and just sort of disappears into the ground.
What? I open the door and
And you look, and there's just like, and you even walk where he just was, and you're just like, not sure quite whether that was real.
whoa, okay. Vision of emaciated figure. Looks at the door.
Yeah.
Find me in the.
So what does
forest.
she do? I mean, it's heading towards dark, and she's kind of sensible, and she's got food on for far.
Yeah. She picks up the cloak and inspects
That's
it.
all gone.
Even the cloak.
Yeah, the cloak kind of slumps into the ground and just sort of merges with it and disappears.
Whoa.
Like literally, you just went and stamped around on the ground, like picked at it and clawed at it a bit. Like what? Huh? I'm sure there was a dude. He was just here. In fact, you look around and you see there are a couple of other people in the street, sort of heading. One person was like,
You don't have to name everybody, do you?
Mrs. Ballycore is heading towards the pub with a stern expression and a sturdy broom in her hand.
You mean
the carpenter's wife?
The carpenter's. Oh, Mrs. Ballycore.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I noticed that, and I think that's nothing unusual. That's just what happens every day with the Ballycores.
Yeah. It's just so she's heading towards the pub, and there are sort of a couple of other people milling around the vicinity.
Okay, I go back in, very confused, and I close the door behind me.
Yeah.
And I go back to what I was doing.
Yeah, so you set about making the stew,
Yeah,
and
I go back to what I was doing.
You finish making the stew, and sort of think it's about ready for serving. It takes sort of an hour or so of stewing before you decide that, and you sort of what do you potter around doing actually? Because you do have a short sword of your own,
yes.
Which is here, which is what your father has taught you to use,
yes.
as well as there are training swords.
Yes.
Yeah. Just a couple of simple wooden training swords made of sort of slats bound together, so that you can hit without hurting people. Well, you could hurt people with them.
Well, yeah, no, okay.
They're sort of designed as training swords.
Yeah, I pick up one of the training swords and I start practicing my footwork.
Make a charisma check versus a DC of 15.
Okay. Oh. What did you say, charisma? 10.
The longer you practice, the sort of you start becoming a little bit sullen. It's like it's not quite the same with our father to practice.
Well, feeling a bit like that, I put the training sword back, and I take out my short sword, my prized possession. It is the thing that I care for the most. If someone were to ask Libby, your house is burning down and you have time to run in and grab one thing, what would it be? It would be her short sword. She's had it forever. So this is her short sword, and it was. So she gets her short sword out. But she knows that it's a bit wrong because Father has told her that she's not allowed to get the real sword out when she's alone because it's too dangerous. And, you know...
so she's like...
Yeah. And so Father's not here, so she removes it and she's like, oh, and she starts kind of just feeling what it's like to cut the air with.
Make perception.
Knowing that she's doing something wrong. Perception, which is intelligence?
Wisdom. 6. Okay. Literally, you play around with the short sword in the air, and you hear the door opening behind you, and you whiz around and sort of have just enough time to be like, put the sword behind your back and look sheepishly as your father comes through the door. And sort of the door opens, and there's sort of once athletic, very somebody who had bearing and sort of gravitas, the kind of person that walks into a room and you don't necessarily notice them, but they have like that kind of air of dignity about them, where it's like this is somebody that maybe you should actually pay some heed to. But he comes in, and it's sort of there's a sort of hunch to his shoulders, and the head's sort of down a bit. And the sad thing is, he almost doesn't notice you're there, and you're sort of looking at him sheepishly. And he sort of almost shakes his head and looks around. He's like, oh, Libby, and the once sort of dignified features are starting to get wrinkles around the edges, and the sort of black bags setting in under the eyes, and sort of grey hair is coming through, and his beard is sort of streaked with grey. Sort of the once sort of golden blonde mop is now a kind of dulcet blonde grey mix. And he's like, oh, Libby, oh, you're such a lovely girl. And make a height check, which is dexterity.
4.
That's very lucky because I got a 3. You manage to keep. He doesn't notice the sword. but that you're holding behind you. But he's like, oh, and he sort of sniffs the air and he's like, oh, food would be so lovely. Oh yeah, and he sort of starts heading towards the rocking chair. Which is sort of opposite, just to one side. So if the table's directly opposite the hearth, it's just to one side.
I take that opportunity as his attention's directed towards the chair to quickly slip the sword back into the scabbard and put it back.
You make again a dexterity check.
10.
Okay, you're okay. You manage to sort of sneak it, and then while he's walking one way, you walk the other way and sheath it and sort of put it down and keep on walking around like you haven't done anything, and then serve food for him.
I give him the food, and as he's taking his first few mouthfuls, I go and pour some of the cider that was given to me.
The apple brandy.
The apple brandy. The apple brandy from Jeffrem, and I go to him holding it in both hands, and I say, "This is from Jeffrem, Father. He said that you would like it."
And he sort of looks at it and he sort of takes it. Oh, Jeffrem, I haven't seen him in too long. Just too much. All this paper. I think the quill will kill me. It's one thing being the Master of Swords, but more and more I just seem to be doing paperwork.
Oh.
It's
Yes, Jeffrem says that he hasn't seen you in a while, Father, and that you should.
Well,
there's so much.
There's so much to do. I mean, there's all this talk of war coming from the capital, and Lord Strauss has gone to sort of talk to the king and find out what's what and how many men will have to be levied from here, but. It means that I'm having to inventory weapons and make sure that the blacksmiths are keeping and talks about it. I know it's just endless paperwork and having to just hand and my writing's not what it once was, and it takes me so long to get all the calligraphy right, and I'm not a monk. That's what they're for now, but they've had to withdraw all their people in order to. With the cleric still comes through now and again, but he's sort of, we don't have a full-time clergyman here to do all of this stuff, and I would rather be in the practice yard with the men any day of the week, but these days I'm just, And then he sort of takes a little sip of the brandy, and then he just knocks it back and puts the cup down, and he's like, "Get us another, would you please, Libby? That's rather nice. And when you see Jeffrey, do thank him for me." It's getting later now. I mean, it's after dark, and he sort of pulls off his boots and sort of puts one of the stools in front of the fire and sort of leans back in the rocking chair and puts his feet up and sits there, sort of knocking back the brandy steadily, and you just watch him sort of drinking himself into a stupor.
I go to the fire, and obviously I eat myself, with him. I get a bowl and I eat as well.
So you just sit at the table and eat with him while he's eating.
And when we're finished and he's put his feet up and everything, I go and I stoke the fire a little bit. And I go and get a blanket.
By the time you stoke the fire, I mean, he's just sort of drunk himself into a bit of a stupor. He's necked like half a bottle of brandy, basically. It's apple brandy, but still brandy. It's strong. And he's sort of drunk himself to sleep, really. And as you know, he gets up, he goes into the castle. You don't see him. He comes back. He eats. He passes out. That seems to be how he's been ever since. What's your mother called?
We didn't name it, did we? No. Let's say you Miriam. Sorry.
And Miriam, you never knew your mother. She died in childbirth.
Okay.
And although when you were a child, sort of, you seem to be the light of your father's life. As you've gotten older, he seems to have sort of steadily, as you've gotten older, he's receded away from life kind of more and more and more, and sort of crept into himself and away from people. Like when you were young, he was like there for you and vigorous for you. And make a perception check. How wise is Libby?
16.
She gets the general feeling that she reminds him too much of her mother.
That's pretty sad.